If it were possible to see all of the world in one country, then it would be here in this land of rich and startling variety. A land of subtropical native forests, of volcanoes and steaming sulfur, of deep fjords on the edge of Antarctica, and of soaring mountains that seem to pierce the sky. A young, free country of sport and adventure, where the air and water are as clear as crystal. This is the home of rare birds and animals. Plants and flowers seen nowhere else on the planet. A remote place untouched by the pressure of population and industry. A unique chance to experience nature as it was thousands of years ago. International Video Network welcomes you on this video visits tour of New Zealand, Islands of Adventure. To travel further from the principal cities of Europe, Asia and America is virtually impossible. New Zealand sits to the east of Australia and north of the Great South Polar Ice Cap. Its closest neighbouring city, Sydney, is as distant as London is from Moscow. The size of Britain, California or Japan, New Zealand enjoys warm summers and mild winters. The two islands support a population of only 3 million people, making New Zealand one of the least populated countries on Earth. Most people live in the North Island. Fewer than 1 million live in the South. New Zealand is unique because of an event that took place 5 million years ago. The great drifting continental landmass, known as Gondwana Land, split, leaving the islands that are now New Zealand geographically isolated. This separation happened before most mammals had evolved, leaving this new land with only birds and reptiles and one solitary mammal, the bat. New Zealand developed its own plant life. Strange trees and vegetation grew. Unusual birds thrived, but lost their ability to fly because there were no predators. Here the Earth's crust was at its thinnest. Volcanoes and boiling lakes were common features of the landscape. Frequent earthquakes ravaged the terrain. This was the last habitable landmass to be discovered by man. The Maui people arrived here 1,000 years ago after a long journey by canoe from Polynesian islands in the mid and South Pacific Ocean. They christened this country Aotearoa, or Land of the Long White Cloud. The Maoris brought with them the first mammals and enjoyed a near idyllic existence. The first European to discover New Zealand was a Dutchman, Abel Tasman. On December 13th, 1642, 4 of the Dutch were killed in this first encounter between the Maoris and Europeans. Tasman then left New Zealand with its new Dutch title, but nothing else. The British explorer James Cook arrived over a century later in 1769. In his ship Endeavour, he mapped the entire coast of New Zealand and led the way to European settlement. The first residents, though, were a rough and unruly collection of sailors, traders and whalers. Their first settlement was the town of Russell in the Bay of Islands. It's now a peaceful haven, still with some of New Zealand's oldest buildings. The buildings that used to be grog shops and houses of ill repute for the first residents are now respectable historic monuments. This is the country's oldest hotel. And the police station now rarely sees any crime at all. The missionaries who followed the whalers in the mid-1800s described Russell as the hellhole of the Pacific. The local graveyard reads like an open history book, the stones recording the lives of those who traveled halfway around the world to find a new life. The stones also point to the next chapter in New Zealand's history. a time when European and Maori was split over the future of the country. Many Maoris wanted the Europeans to leave, but Chief Wakanene supported a new society based on the two cultures living in cooperation. He persuaded most of his people to sign the historic Treaty of Waitangi on February 6, 1840. Later, though, a series of violent land wars flared, and the British Army fought rebel Maori groups for over 20 years before achieving a military victory. The site at Waitangi, where the treaty was signed, is today a national monument and is regarded as the birthplace of modern New Zealand. The treaty laid the foundation for a multicultural society. Now in the Bay of Islands there is little evidence of the turmoil of days gone by. The area is a tranquil marine reserve, a haven for wildlife, and people seeking an escape from the bustle of modern society. There are 144 islands in the area, and water transport has become a way of life, as well as a form of recreation. High-speed catamarans regularly traverse these waters through some of New Zealand's finest scenery to Cape Brett. The massive pinnacle of Piercy Island lies just off the Cape, and its natural tunnel has developed from being a useful shortcut to become a feature of the voyage. The unpolluted water is teeming with marine life, and it's possible to travel by submarine and eavesdrop on the underwater world. New Zealand is surrounded by a 200-mile exclusive economic zone, and as one of the country's main export earners, the fishing industry is strictly controlled. The combination of history and recreation seems to sit well with the Bay of Islands. Its modern popularity has done nothing to erase the drama and importance of events in the past. To the south of the Bay of Islands is an area of protected woodland known as the Waipua Forest, dominated by New Zealand's largest and most majestic native tree, the kauri. These trees are second only in size to the sequoias of California and provided significant exports for New Zealand. The largest surviving tree was named by the Maoris as Tane Mahuta, or Lord of the Forest. The tree is over 1,200 years old. The hard wood of the kauri tree was perfect for building, and the British Royal Navy favoured kauri for ships' masts. Towards the end of the 1800s, the kauri was exported to such an extent that its very survival was threatened, and kauri logging was eventually banned in the 1940s. The threat had been made all the more serious by the early extensive trade in kauri gum, a beautiful amber resin that dripped from the trees to form solid nuggets. Professional gum diggers discovered pieces that were thousands of years old. Some even contained insects that had been trapped in the fluid and perfectly preserved as it hardened. New Zealand's largest city, Auckland, sprawls across a narrow strip of land between the Pacific Ocean and the Tasman Sea. A third of the country's population, 1 million people, live here, spread across an area greater than London or Paris. Auckland is known as the city of sails and claims the largest boat ownership in the world. One household in 4 owns a yacht or motor cruiser. Auckland is a busy, multicultural city where Maori and European work side by side. 15% of Aucklanders are either Maori or Polynesian, and in recent years there's been significant immigration from Pacific islands such as Samoa and Rarotonga. Auckland is built on the site of 60 volcanoes, but now only a few remain. Rangitoto, the benign guardian of the entrance to Auckland Harbour, last erupted 750 years ago. Although Auckland is not the capital, it is the major gateway into New Zealand, and most international flights operate from here. An extensive network of domestic flights link Auckland with the rest of the country, and New Zealand has one of the best civil aviation systems of any country in the world, with even tiny remote communities served by a regular air service. Auckland's city centre is an intriguing patchwork of architectural styles, with colonial and modern buildings shoulder to shoulder in the main shopping area of Queen Street. Overlooking the city is the War Memorial Museum, built along classical lines and housing one of the first reconstructions of the moa, an extinct bird which stood to the height of 3 men. The moa was hunted extensively by the Maoris, to whom it was a prized source of food, but one of its flightless relatives has survived the test of time. The kiwi, a bird the size of a small hen, adopted by New Zealanders as their national symbol. The kiwis are as ancient as the moa, and even though they too were hunted, today they're in no danger of extinction. Auckland was the city chosen by underwater explorer and treasure hunter Kelly Talton for the construction of his underwater world. It was his lifelong dream to give people an idea of what it was like to be part of the undersea environment. Sadly, he died only 7 weeks after the completion of this submerged Perspex tunnel, but his dream lives on. South of Auckland, New Zealand's climate becomes temperate, and the landscapes begin to change. This is limestone country, and the site of a complex series of caves, grottos, and underwater rivers. The Waitomo caves have become world famous because of the thousands of glowworms that cling to the walls and roof. Each tiny animal hangs down threads that act as fishing lines to attract food. Small boats travel deep into the cave system through river grottos, where the glowworms are the only source of light. The glowworms shine in this state for 3 or 4 months before turning into an adult flying insect. They then live for just 1 day, unable to eat or see, but able to mate and continue the cycle. To the east of the caves is the most dramatic reminder that New Zealand sits on the edge of the Pacific Rim of Fire. Here in Rotoura, boiling water, mud and steam force their way to the Earth's surface. The ground constantly rumbles as underground energy strains to release itself. The Pahutu geyser in the Whakariwa Thermal Reserve is the most powerful display of this subterranean turmoil. Every hour or so, an unearthly growling and hissing sound precedes an explosion of steam and gas. The country around Rotoura is a confusion of geothermal activity. Each area has its own characteristics and even its own mood. Waiotapu is one of the most quiet, gentle and colourful areas, with silica and sulphur formations making the area a magnet for amateur and professional photographers.
Okay.
16. We're really down at the slow speeds now, Roger.
The town of Rotoura itself lies on the edge of a submerged volcanic crater and is a major centre of Maori art and culture.
But folks, the only true difference between this mud pool and quicksand is you cook on the way down.
1/4 of the population are of Maori descent, and the Maori people own much of the geothermal land. The Whakariwa Reserve is run as a cooperative, with the Maori owners acting as tourist guides and business managers, with income shared amongst the group. Maori carvers have created statues which surround the reserve. The stylized heads reflect designs that have been traced directly back to Western Asia before 1000 BC. But the swirling symbolism has long since taken on an exclusively Maori meaning. All tribal history and mythology lives on today through these carving skills that have been carefully maintained. Maori meeting houses like this can be found all over New Zealand and are used for important gatherings, family reunions and concerts. To the west of Rotoura is Mount Tawera, a volcano that has a special, terrifying significance. On May 31st, 1886, a ghostly Maori war canoe was seen by 2 separate Victorian tourist parties speeding across Lake Tawera. It was later established that this canoe did not exist, and the incident was seen as an omen of imminent disaster. 10 days later, a series of earthquakes shook the Rotorua area and there was a massive eruption. Mount Tawera had literally exploded, destroying itself and the surrounding landscape. A huge scar remains as evidence of the size of the eruption, which killed 153 people. Volcanic fragments fell as far as 700 miles away. A series of pink and white rock terraces near Rotorua, which have been called the 8th wonder of the world, were destroyed without trace. The The village of Tawera was completely buried. It is a sad and moving experience walking through this tiny settlement, frozen by ash and mud, into a date that never changes. June 10th, 1886. A nearby hotel was crushed by the exploding mountain, leaving a tortured pattern of twisted floorboards and iron beds pressed into the earth. An entire new valley of thermal lakes and fissures was created by the Tawera eruption. Named Waimangu, the valley is a beautiful, mysterious place. A vast lake known as Echo Crater boils constantly, producing eerie patterns of steam above the acid water. A sharp, steaming pinnacle, Cathedral Rock, marks the point where the Earth's crust is at its thinnest, only 1/50th of the depth that is described by geologists as average throughout the rest of the world. In spite of its boiling landscapes, Rotoura manages to be a successful provincial town.
That's all right.
Transplanted into this hostile environment are even the most genteel of activities which clearly reflect New Zealand's English heritage. In the centre of the North Island is the volcanic plateau, dominated by the near-perfect cone of Ngārahoe. These are active volcanoes, but in winter Mount Ruapeu is the North Island's main ski resort. Ruapeu was chosen at the turn of the century as the site for one of the first government-built resort hotels, the Chateau Tongariro. It was clear that these remote locations needed high-class accommodations if tourism was to be developed. New Zealand is still a largely rural country, and farming traditions that began at the turn of the century continue today. Agriculture and pastoral societies were established to promote the interests of farmers and keep remote families in touch with each other.
That's my agent over there. Sky TV.
The annual A&P show has over the years become a cultural event in its own right and exposes the good-humoured, rugged character of the New Zealanders.
Okay, what's it to be? 3 apples, oranges, or lemons? 3 apples? Okay, ready? Don't look at me, you just pick out one. Ready, steady, go! Oh, lost your money. You got it? You got the idea?
The show is an effective way to raise money for charity, but above all is a chance for normally level-headed people to forget day-to-day responsibilities and have a bit of fun. The seat of government in New Zealand lies at the southernmost tip of the North Island, the capital city, Wellington. The city is also the headquarters of many major businesses and financial institutions. Originally Port Nicholson, Wellington was built on a spectacular harbour and is notorious for its unpredictable winds and occasional earth tremors. The earthquake risk dictated the need for safe buildings, and residents built flexible wooden houses that have become part of Wellington's landscape. New Zealand is governed from 2 separate buildings, one old and one new. The old marble Parliament House dates back to 1922 and sits alongside the 1981 extension known universally as the Beehive. New Zealand's parliamentary democracy is based on the British model, but has no upper house. Politics, New Zealand style, is traditional but vigorous, with many ideas and reforms introduced ahead of the rest of the world. New Zealand was the first country to establish an 8-hour day, women's right to vote, and a structured social welfare system. Wellington has also carved out a specialist niche in the area of international currency markets. New Zealand is the first country in the world to see the dawn, and foreign exchange dealers take advantage of their head start. Even though the volume here is small by world standards, New Zealand dealers often set the pace for the rest of the day in much bigger currency markets. Wellington's been compared to San Francisco, not just because of its brightly coloured wooden houses, but because of its cable cars. The cars are part of the city's public transport system and represent a welcome escape from some impossibly steep steps. Wellington has in recent years established an international reputation as a centre for the arts. In particular, opera thrives here, with performers such as Dame Kiri Tikanawa and Donald McIntyre sought after by companies throughout the world. The stretch of water between the North and South Islands is known as Cook Strait, a popular target for long-distance swimmers. Modern ships have turned the 3-hour ferry journey into more of a cruise than a crossing. The final part of the north to south trip snakes through the Malbra Sounds, a beautiful and complex series of inlets. It's easy to get lost in these innumerable bays and coves, a decision many people have made on a permanent basis. These residents enjoy almost total isolation, with occasional visits from the mailboat the only contact with the outside world. Even the mailboat itself is a product of the Malbra Sounds. Skipper Lindsay Hicks built the boat with his own bare hands in 4 continuous months without a day off. Malbra has also become famous around the world for its fine wines. First cultivated in 1975, Malbra's reputation is fast catching up with North Island vineyards in Hawke's Bay. The soil here is perfect for vines, as is the climate. It's a combination that's produced prize-winning vintages in competition with the best French, Californian and Australian wines. New Zealanders are fiercely loyal to their own labels, and 85% of the total wine consumed is produced domestically. To the southeast of the Malbra Sounds, the coastline becomes rugged and forbidding. The town of Kikura nestles at the foot of the coastal mountain range and relies on the sea for trade and income. A small fleet of fishing boats concentrates on capturing the New Zealand crayfish or rock lobster. They're sold by the roadside, as well as being shipped around New Zealand and exported to Japan and the United States. The crayfish are drawn to the Kikura coast by a sudden uplift in the continental shelf, a geological accident that also attracts larger seagoing visitors. The humpback and sperm whales find abundant food where the sea bottom rises suddenly to meet the mountains. This is one of the very few places on Earth where whales can be seen at such close quarters. Kikura coast has now become a pilgrimage for people from all over the world, especially those who have supported the campaign for saving the whales. The experience of being so close to these magnificent creatures leaves everyone who comes here deeply moved. The first New Zealanders made their living by killing whales and very nearly hunted them to extinction. Now the whole country is fighting for their survival. The South Island's largest city, Christchurch, lies approximately halfway down the east coast. The formation of Christchurch was an attempt by the Church of England to create a model city. In 1850, after a difficult voyage, 780 migrants arrived from England to build a devout and decorous city on what was then a plain of dust. Christchurch has since been described as more English than England. Everything here was built to a careful plan, but the dream of recreating English society was to fail. Land prices were set artificially high to discourage what was seen as the lower classes, but soon Christchurch became motivated by the free market forces of an expanding wool industry, which offered well-paid work for everyone. Today, Christchurch enjoys the same classless society as the rest of New Zealand, but the English heritage remains. It's a charming place and full of character. Each lunchtime, the official wizard of Christchurch summons his flock under the shadow of Christchurch Cathedral. After many years of conflict with the city fathers, the wizard now has their blessing, in spite of his obvious pride over his refusal to pay income tax.
Work is for slaves! Wage slaves. But over there, Inland Revenue, wonder how I survive. Because I have got no income tax number and have not paid income tax for 21 years either. This is my technique to destroy socialism and capitalism. If you don't...
In spite of the official sponsorship by the Christchurch Council, the wizard claims not to belong in the real world because he holds no official papers and no passport. Between Christchurch and the west coast of the South Island is one of the greatest railway journeys of the world. The Trans-Alpine Express runs through the heart of the Southern Alps along a track that is itself a feat of engineering. All of New Zealand's railways had to be pushed through difficult terrain, but this is the most spectacular example of the determination shown by early engineers. To the southwest of Christchurch lies Mackenzie country, an area of brooding lakes, vast sheep stations, and old legends. The legends centre on one man and his dog, and all modern shepherds have their own version of the story. The man was a Scot, James Mackenzie, and his dog was called Friday. In 1855, Mackenzie, who some said spoke only Gaelic and no English, was was convicted of stealing 1,000 sheep. No jail, though, could hold him, and Mackenzie eluded police and bounty hunters with ease. Whenever captured, he would escape within hours and be seen on the high plains with his faithful dog. Eventually he was pardoned and officially released, but disappeared without trace. The story came to represent the feisty individualism of the people who first turned these plains into successful farms. Now the total national sheep population is over 60 million, or 20 sheep for every man, woman and child in the country. Above the Mackenzie country is New Zealand's highest mountain, a peak described by the early Maoris as Aorangi, the cloud piercer. Literally breathtaking, a towering pinnacle of permanent snow and ice. The giant mountain dominates its own national park and is surrounded by over 140 other peaks and 5 glaciers. This is raw nature at its most beautiful. It is possible, standing in the shadow of Mount Cook, to see back in time to before the arrival of man. Now 20% of the entire landmass is preserved in this state, either as national park or as a specially protected area. Mount Cook and its neighbour, Mount Tasman, were both named after the early voyagers, James Cook and Abel Tasman. It seemed somehow suitable that the Dutch discoverer and the English explorer of New Zealand now live on as adjacent summits looking down on the country they helped create. The triumph of the Mount Cook National Park is its accessibility. Without spoiling the environment, a strictly controlled number of aircraft ferry passengers to the head of the Tasman Glacier. The specially equipped ski planes land at the top of the glacier, where it can be either the start of one of the world's most spectacular ski runs or simply an awe-inspiring stopover. The flight leaves even the hardest soul deeply affected by the purity and sheer beauty of these majestic Alps. The New Zealand government's remote hotel building program left Mount Cook National Park with its own village, centred on the Hermitage, a large Alpine-style hotel built to blend in with its surroundings. From here, a number of walks and nature trails snake through the park. The wildlife is well protected and diverse, but a cheeky native parrot, the kea, is usually the most obvious. To the south lies the Lindis Pass, an area of strange rounded hills and grassy outcrops that mark the gateway to the province of Otago, It's a reminder that once again the landscape is changing. From here on, it's the deep south. Otago is the same size as Switzerland, with the resort of Queenstown at the centre of the Southern Lakes district. Queenstown is a product of New Zealand's gold rush years. Back in the 1860s, miners and fortune seekers flooded into the area from as far afield as mainland China and Europe. Now the gold lies in tourism, and the town's main asset is its enviable position at the foot of a mountain range called simply the Remarkables, and on the shores of one of New Zealand's largest lakes, Wakatipu. More than any other town in the country, Queenstown provokes strong feelings from New Zealanders. Many claim it is too commercial and merely a copy of an American or European ski resort. Others sing the praises of this urgent and energetic place. In any event, Queenstown is undeniably successful, and the lakeside is dotted with motels jostling for the best view. An old steamship, the Earnslaw, provides perhaps the best vantage point of all, and is still as fast and perfectly maintained as she was when launched in the 1920s. Queenstown has acquired a reputation for adventure as well as for its natural beauty. One of the most dramatic activities is also the most recent. Getting there is supposed to be half the fun, but this road through Skipper's Canyon requires nerves of steel. Insurance companies specify on all New Zealand policies that vehicles are not covered on the Skipper's Road. The destination is Skipper's Bridge, a 100-year-old suspension bridge over a sheer-sided canyon. This is one of two Queenstown sites for the New Zealand sport of bungee jumping.
Ready, boy? Stand up straight.
That's big guy.
Nice and straight.
Here we go, big guy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, shit! Whoa! Come on!
It might look crazy, but over 30,000 people have paid good money to do this since the operation was started in the late 1980s. Although legal, bungee jumping is carefully regulated in New Zealand, and even though it looks dangerous, the safety record is impressive. Further down the Shotover River, another New Zealand invention makes its entry to the adrenaline stakes. Sir William Hamilton invented a new way of propelling boats back in 1960, and he christened his invention the jet boat. Hamilton jet boat, using a powerful and directional jet of water instead of a propeller, is now used in 125 countries for research, rescue and fishing work. Here, it's just for fun. Other companies in Queenstown have combined jet boat travel with helicopters, making it possible to see Queenstown first from the air and then from the water. Because the mountains and lakes make road building difficult, the helicopters have become part of the Queenstown way of life, providing a vital link with the remote communities. In winter, the helicopters provide skiers with an opportunity to ski the glaciers and virgin slopes without the risk of seeing another human being. In most countries, this would be a dream. Here it's reality. Queenstown becomes a ski mecca in the winter months, attracting tens of thousands of amateur skiers, as well as professionals from the European and American circuits. Because of its position, Queenstown has also become the principal departure point for aircraft flying into Milford Sound. The flight involves a journey far into the heart of the mountain ranges to the west, landing in a spectacular valley that's been easily accessible for less than 50 years. Milford Sound has become one of the most famous images of New Zealand. Mitre Peak rises out of the water as if thrust in one single movement. Mighty cruise liners and small launches alike are utterly dwarfed by the sheer rock faces and plunging waterfalls. The valleys around Milford are rich in New Zealand greenstone, a variety of jade. The Maoris valued the greenstone more highly than gold and created many carvings that are still reproduced today. The lost rivers and valleys around Queenstown have become favoured destinations for fishing enthusiasts from around the world. A retired Hong Kong policeman, Roy Moss, has become well known as a guide and expert for the adventurous angler, and guards his knowledge of the best locations with keen professional secrecy. The climate here has also led to a number of small boutique wineries being established. The hot, dry Otago summers provide the slow ripening conditions ideal for Pinot Noir and Sauvignon Blanc grapes.
What were the scores for number one? 15. 15 and a half.
Alan Brady, the owner of this property, organises frequent wine tasting groups which not only introduce local restaurant owners to the qualities of this small, specialised operation, but also provide an ongoing check that the wine measures up to the best from competing domestic and foreign vintages.
That's why I scored it quite well, because I like the style. I'm sure it lacks fruit.
The small town of Clyde is home to one of Otago's most famous restaurants. Oliver's specialises in New Zealand produce, and the menu here always features traditional fare as well as more daring dishes that have now become typical of New Zealand's increasingly adventurous approach to restaurant cuisine. Oysters from the rugged south coast are served within hours of being landed. And the venison is fresh from mountain deer farms. Even the famous kiwi fruit is adapted into a variety of exciting dishes. The city of Dunedin lies on the coast of the Otago province and is as Scottish as Christchurch is English. Just as the Church of England wanted Christchurch to become a perfect version of an imperfect homeland, the Presbyterian Church of Scotland wanted Dunedin to become their model city. They planned everything, down to the last brick and stone, and today the University Clock Tower is only one of an astonishing range of Victorian buildings that were modelled on existing structures in Scotland. This house is the jewel in the city's architectural crown. Overston was built between 1904 and 1906 and is preserved just as it was when the Theoman family lived here. The house is Jacobean in style and is filled with art treasures collected by the family from throughout Europe and Asia. To the west of Dunedin is Fjordland, one of the world's largest national parks, so vast that parts of it have never been visited by man. Corrugated expanse of mountains, fjords, lost lakes and dense beach forest conjured up myths in the early part of this century of a lost Maori tribe, and even rumours that the giant moa still survived in these parts. The stories were fueled by the discovery of the takahe, a flightless bird previously thought to be long extinct. Today, there are only an estimated 150 birds still alive. This chick was found as an abandoned egg high in the mountains. Park rangers managed to convince two adult birds in captivity that the egg belonged to them, and the chick has survived. In the heart of Fjordland is the Wilmot Pass. Here, above Doubtful Sound, it's easy to imagine what it would feel like standing at the end of the earth. The water of Doubtful Sound is an inky, mirror-surfaced ebony caused by a layer of fresh water floating permanently on top of salt water from the sea. The launch operators here pride themselves on an empathy with their surroundings, and in the most remote arm of the sound, the engines are switched off, allowing the sounds of Fjordland to wash over the boat. The contrasts of New Zealand are hard to believe in a country of this size, but every element is an integral part of this one extraordinary nation. Here, the people have intertwined their different histories to produce one coherent society. A society that respects the environment and the freedom of the individual. There is freedom to breathe fresh air, freedom to eat fresh food, and freedom to enjoy life and adventure in untouched open spaces. There is a freshness about New Zealand that is obvious in every aspect of the people and culture. Out of a dramatic past have emerged these unique islands of adventure, a young and geographically remote country which has managed to escape many of the pressures and problems of the 20th century.
World travel, filled with action, excitement, and adventure. International Video Network's video visits are your ticket to the world. These exciting video programs will whisk you away to more than 50 fascinating destinations on 6 continents. Breathtaking photography heightens the beauty and grandeur of the world's greatest cities and countries. Entertaining as well as informative, video visits are a great way to relive memorable vacations, plan your next trip, or just to satisfy your curiosity of exotic locales. From the pulsating sounds of Carnival in Rio to the peaceful serenity of Ireland's countryside, each video visit will transport you to the actual location. Video visits also feature authentic ethnic music providing insights into the different cultures of the world. Whether it be an Irish colleen singing a traditional folk song, or the boisterous Oktoberfest in Munich. You'll examine the people of today's ever-changing world, discovering the similarities and differences that makes each of them unique, from the native Eskimos of Alaska to the Buddhist monks of China. Bring the world into your home by visiting such sites as all these and many more exciting destinations are waiting to be discovered by you now. Also available is the Reader's Digest Great National Park Series, Yosemite, Yellowstone, and the Grand Canyon. Crown jewels of America's national park system are available for your viewing pleasure. To start or expand your video travel library, order Video Visits or the Great National Park Series from your favorite retailer, mail order catalog, or by calling International Video Network at 415-866-1121 for the name of a distributor near you.